I can tell you right now, there's no clean way to fix this that I would be happy with, which I kind of suspected based on how frustrating it was to watch it the second time. I think what I would have done is I would have reworked Dalton's character completely and made him a lot more of this silly optimist who happens to be brutal. And the character that I'm referring to is when he goes, "Do you guys all have your health insurance because I'm putting you guys in the hospital?" That's not how the original movie went. I thought that was an interesting character choice. It's a little Jack Reachery for my blood, but it's an interesting character choice, and it's a take that we don't see a lot. And so I thought that was fun, but then he doesn't really do that again. If the whole movie was this unpredictable where he's so sure of something that he accounts for the consequences, I don't see that happening again. So I would have leaned into that more because I think there's opportunities there. I could see on the date where he either says something to her or his body presents in a way that scares her because he's used to this, snap back and forth between being witty and confident and being absolutely brutal and terrifying. I could see that happening, and that could be she would lose interest then, and that would be a problem. He's gonna have to win her back then. There's your conflict. There's your struggle in the the D story. I don't know what story she would be. The Conor McGregor stuff. He is a one-dimensional character, and he's there to just make chaos. They have no banter. That's where the banter should be. This guy is so confident that he's telling people as he's about to beat them up that I need you guys to be careful. I need you guys to have insurance because I'm going to have to take you guys to the hospital later. The Knox character, Conor McGregor, is very much of that ilk, and it's played that way too. His characters, like you and I, are the same, but then they're not. And so why when it's time to actually engage in somebody as insidious and obviously evil as Knox, would Dalton not be witty and trying to use those same tricks on him? Is there a reason? Is it jumped on immediately? Is he starts to say something witty and he gets popped in the face and he realizes that's not how this is going to go? I think there's something there. I think there's something very useful there. There's some real artifice happening. The friendship with the young bookstore girl. Yeah, there's just something creepy about a grizzled, quiet vagrant being really good friends with a naive bookstore girl. That it's just, there's either not enough information or there's too much information. I'm gonna say there's definitely not enough information just because it seems like we know very little about Dalton's character, which is the opposite of how the original movie went. The original movie, not only is he a legend, but all bouncers know about him, and so he has friends in every town because he's a celebrity in that way. Whereas this one, he's the UFC guy that unalived somebody, and so he's got a bad history. Like the challenge of this character is he has to undermine what everybody thinks they know about him, but he doesn't. Whereas in the original movie, he has to play into what they think they know about him to his advantage. Like the running joke in the original movie was, "I thought you'd be bigger." In this movie, he is bigger. He's terrifying and he's huge and he's famous. So that bit doesn't work. And him being a brooding, quiet guy kind of doesn't help the case because he just kind of comes off as dumb and passive. Whereas it's his story. It's his attempt at redemption. It's his attempt at growing as a person by actually investing what he can do and what he's good at into this town for the right reasons. But then he goes and pushes a guy into a pool after breaking his throat. If I were to do this, if somebody were to hand me this script and say, this needs to be in production in 6 months and it needs to make its money back, what can you do? I would probably, because the Knox Conor McGregor character is so fun, I'd put him earlier in the story because he comes out of nowhere and it's kind of too little too late by the time he shows up. He needs to be earlier because he's fun. And he's a good foil to our main character because he is pure evil, but he's got all the stuff that the main character has, that Dalton has. So I think he needs to be early, and I think that needs to be they need to be increasingly closer and closer until there's a comes to a head, and then a failure, and then another comes to a head, and hopefully a success. The dating the doc, which did come out of the first movie, it feels absolutely artificial. And if nothing else, she's just like a MacGuffin for him to hang around with because she's connected to everybody in the story. Frankie the bartender for the same reason. These girls are hilarious. These women are hilariously underwritten, which is crazy because one of the other main characters that our main character connects with is the little girl, which is the creepiest of all of it. If the requirement to keep Charlie, the bookstore girl, in was required, I would try to find a way to make it work and make it less of what it is. It makes very little sense to me that those two would be left alone in a room together. If only for the fact that he's an unaliver, and he's a very famous unaliver. Clearly we know he's not going to do that, but then obviously the rest of the story goes the other way. I think there needs to be an aspect of him embracing the town, because we know at the end of the story he's going to have to leave the town, and so the one thing he's going to have to do in the finale that he's not prepared to do is make the choice that forces him to leave the town. I think that's very important. But he needs to leave knowing that he's giving up something important in order to do the right thing, whereas here he's just leaving because he was told to leave. What would this be about? I think it was supposed to be set up as redemption for a guy who went too far and lost his career in the ring. But because we basically have no inner life for the Dalton character, and he doesn't seem to want anything. His most intimate connections again are with this little girl, which is oof, big oof. Yeah, I would say if this was a redemption movie, we needed to understand more of what Dalton's character was actually experiencing, because we don't really see that. Like in John Wick, we see Keanu Reeves, not only is he upset, but now he's smashing the concrete to get to his weapons in his floor. We don't see that with Jake Gyllenhaal's Dalton character at all. We don't see the effort. I think it could be re-edited to be clearer and to be considerably shorter, which I think would be a helpful thing, but I think the overall experience of the story would be approximately the same, maybe slightly better, but not enough to make it worth it. Something happened in editorial, possibly during the scripting phase, but I think probably in editorial when they were in post and trying to tell the story, that made this as messy as it is. Maybe they were shooting with an evolving script. That's possible. With the amount of money they were throwing, I don't necessarily think that happened, but it's possible. Yeah, just a soulless movie that it seems like most, if not everybody involved, by the time it was going to get released, understood it was what it was. So, yeah, all right. That's what it is. We've gone through it. Like, share, subscribe. Catch you on the next one.